Welcome to South Island, New Zealand. Wanaka, situated in the middle of the island amongst the mountains and lakes, is hosting the first iron distance triathlon of 2013. With a backdrop of Lake Wanaka and Mount Aspiring National Park, this has to be one of the most spectacular triathlons in the world. The average temperature at this time of year is a nice 26-27 degrees, but this is an alpine climate, and the athletes will have to cope with cold, heat, wind, as well as a relentlessly tough course. The deep blue water of the lake is cold, the roads exposed to the anabatic winds, and the marathon run involves a 500-metre ascent. But once again, Challenge Wanaka has attracted the biggest names in the Southern Hemisphere.
You know, I think the field's the strongest on record here, so that's a true testament to sort of what people want to do and you know, come down here and support the Challenge family.
As well as Brian Rhodes, the Challenge has proved too much of a lure for two-time Ironman world champion Chris McCormack. He's still very much a force to be reckoned with. Only he knows what sort of shape he's in, but he's not here to make up the numbers.
This will be my first real big bang at an iron distance race since Kona 2010. So we're going to find out if that has been the greatest preparation, because I do remember how much these hurt. But you know, all in all, I can't fault myself on my training. I feel strong. I know I can bank on years of endurance, and I think just getting the job done and getting my head around the task is the key to success in this style of racing.
If anyone knows how to win here, it's Gina Crawford. She's taken the title 4 times from 4 attempts.
On the day, it's something you can't train for at all apart from your mind. It's just pushing through when you have a rough patch, and you just have to be determined, and you'll get through in the end. You know, having a few bad races where, you know, you did give up inside, and then learning from that if you're determined and just hang in there, that things will come right. I mean, you might be in pain for a good hour of the race, but then you turn a corner all of a sudden, as long as you work out what's going wrong and fix it. You've got plenty of time out there to do that.
I have to remember that every time I race, that's how you got to do it, and not panic. You know, I've got red hair. I do have intended to, you know, get panicky and scream and yell and throw all my toys out of the cot. A bit of a John McEnroe. So yeah, I just have to remember just patience, back to the patience again, and just remember that. Take 3 deep breaths, it's going to be okay.
As always, it starts with a swim, a 3,800-metre swim that only the best will complete in under an hour. After weighing in, they enter Lake Wanaka from Pembroke Park and will swim 2 anti-clockwise loops in what look like increasingly choppy conditions. Amongst the elite, they all know each other's PBs and they all know who they want to swim with. It may be a 9-hour race, but a good start and getting on the right feet is absolutely essential. So away they go, and all eyes on the better swimmers, certainly amongst the men. Dylan McNeice, New Zealander, he's a class act capable of a sub-50 time. And amongst the women, Jo Lawn is quick in the water, expected to do something here. And Gina Crawford, of course, a former national level swimmer. It's a fast start as expected, and McNeice has worked hard. He's done incredibly well to break away. Now, don't forget, he had 10 years as a competitive swimmer, but this is his debut in an Ironman distance race. He got good results in Singapore. He got a 3rd in Santa Cruz over the 70.3 distance, but will he be able to go the way? Hundreds of age groupers ready for their start here in Wanaka. Many of them looking for PBs, some of them looking for qualifying times, some of them just wanting to beat their best mate, but most aiming to finish before the course is shut, proving themselves only to themselves. So the age group is underway. Back with the elites. Dylan McNeice from Christchurch, well clear of the rest of the pack now. High tempo, high turnover, and working the legs very hard. The 27-year-old at 72 kilograms, he's tailor-made for this sort of triathlon. Nearest the camera now, Chris McCormack, who's won 76% of his events in his career, over 200 wins since 1993. And he's the only man to have had the Ironman Distance World Championship title and the Olympic Distance World title at the same time. This is Gina Crawford, who's made an early move in the women's race, the 4-time winner. She won in 08, 09, 10, took a year off to start a family in 11, won again in 2012, and looks very strong this year. She's capable of a sub-9 hour time. McNeese, as expected, is the first man out of the water here in Wanaka. We were thinking it might be sub 50. He's gone sub 48. That is a fantastic swim from McNeese. And it looks as though he's only 12 seconds slower than Kieran Doe last year, but that was in much, much better conditions. Brian Rhodes for New Zealand, second out of the water. He won Ironman UK back in 2005, but he's over 3 minutes 40 behind McNeese, and he's going to struggle to make up that sort of a time. The group containing Jamie White, who won in 2011. Chris McCormack is there as well. Leon Griffin's had a very good swim, and he's good on the bike as well. Bit of a question mark over Griffin's run, but he's up there in the top 5 after the first phase. So the bike, of course, 180 kilometres. Now it involves 2 loops with 2 extended arms, which involve a switchback, and that means that Dylan McNeese is going to get a very good shot of the others in the competition. He'll know exactly where he lies. Well, he can't be accused of holding back on this one. He really is going for it in the early stages, and he said he'd do just that. I think Tim Brazier, his coach, will be delighted with the way things have gone so far. So many first-timers in the iron distance. Just take it easy, just to find out what it's all about. McNeese is going for broke. Brian Rhodes on the road out towards Treble Cone. This is one of the tougher sections of the course. He's going nicely at the moment. He'll hit the climb fairly shortly. Rhodes, who was talking big before the race, certainly thinks that he's got a chance of winning this one. 4 minutes adrift. McNeese on the other side of the road, disappearing into the distance and fast. So both McNeese and Rhodes know exactly where they stand in the early stages of the bike. Rhodes has done a lot of training out in Colorado, based himself in Boulder, below Boulder Irons for many years, and he'll be painfully aware of the chasing pack. Now, no drafting allowed, hence the separation between these 3 riders. We've got Jamie White, we've got Chris McCormack, of course, who's capable of going under 8 hours. He's done that 4 times over this distance. And Leon Griffin still hanging in there at the back of the pack. So the leading men well into their bike ride. Gina Crawford was leading when we were last with the women's race, and she still has a comfortable lead after a very good swim. She's 2-time ex-Terra World Champion, Crawford. First started racing here in Wanaka as Gina Ferguson, then married Brett Crawford. And interesting to hear her say that only Kona is harder than this race here in New Zealand. Now, Crawford knows exactly how to win this race, and remarkably, she's produced very similar times over the years. Her record at the moment stands at 9:28, and she's certainly going to have a crack at beating that in 2013. Back with Dylan McNeese, who is flying at the moment on the road out to Queensferry. Now it's slightly downhill, he's got a tailwind and averaging a speed of roughly 65 kilometers an hour, but he knows, as well as everyone else, that he's going to have to double back on himself and do it the other way round. The speeds will come down to 20, 25 kilometers an hour, and that will be a very hard part of this course. Brilliant riding from McNeese so far. He came out of the water, remember, with a lead of 3 minutes 42 seconds over Brian Rhodes. And he'll certainly be expecting to extend that. In fact, we're just hearing that he is extending that, and it's closer to 6.5 minutes now. But there's a group of 3 behind Rhodes, including McCormack, Jamie White, former winner here, and Leon Griffin, and they are closing on the leader. So it is far from over. The big question is, can Dylan McNeese hang on? Welcome back to Challenge Wanaka, the first iron distance triathlon of the season, hosted on the South Island of New Zealand. Dylan McNeice has set a blistering pace early on, a very good swim as expected, but he's pushing hard on the bike as well. Here's Jamie White, the former rugby player, has moved up into second place. He won in 2011, runner-up last year. He's desperate to get the title back this year, and he started very, very well.
You know, it's 8.5 hours of racing and there's a lot that can go wrong in 8 hours. And what I've seen with this course in the past is if you come in and you're not in peak performance, the conditions here will really expose any weakness you have. We've seen it, you know, some good athletes in the last 2 years just have terrible days here.
Griffin leading the chase group at the moment. Rhodes has dropped back into fourth, and at the back of this group in red is of course Chris McCormack, perhaps the biggest name in the field today.
You know, old Rhodesy, Brian Rhodes, he's an old stalwart. He thinks he can win this race. We've had a bit of a Twitter war, and you know, I think he'll set a good early tempo. Can he pull it off in the marathon? He's close to home. It's amazing what a hometown crowd can do.
Jamie White looking pretty settled in second place. Remember, he was 7 minutes behind coming out of the water. He's reduced that to 2 minutes, so he's having a flyer. And both McNeice and White should produce similar times on the run. Well, it's going to be a battle of bodies, but I guess the outcome will be determined by the strength of their minds. This is the women's leader, Gina Crawford. There's no sign of any ailments from the stomach bug that she had earlier in the week. She's produced the fastest swim. She's certainly the fastest on the bike so far, and she's capable of producing the fastest run as well. Behind her, Jo Lawn in the armadillo helmet. A little bit of movement on the bike might be the first sign of fatigue from Jo Lawn. She's got Candice Hammond, who's some 6 minutes behind her, so she's certainly not in a comfort zone at the moment. Final turn for the leading man, Dylan McNeice, heading for T2 now. Back into the town of Wanaka. Now, he was very slow through T1. He lost some 25 seconds to most of the elite men. Just maybe loosening up the thighs and the glutes or shaking out the arms. Not easy to stay in one position for 4.5 hours. And the second transition, although it's important that you do everything right, it's also important that you're fairly quick. McNeice just easing up, thinking about the next 3 hours or so. Remember, the run is a marathon distance, 42.2 kilometres, 26.1 miles. On the back of a 3.8 kilometre swim, and of course that 180 kilometre bike ride that is now over for McNeice. And he comes off with a helmet, may try and take on some fluids as well. Now, this is a phenomenal ride from Jamie White. He was 7 minutes behind at the start, and he's less than a minute and a half behind as he comes into T2. And there's a certain urgency about Jamie White, maybe sensing that he's got his chance. Well, he's got more experience of running the marathon distance than McNeice, and of course he won in 2011, so he knows what winning is all about. McNeice now out onto the road. He's taken 2 minutes 19 seconds in transition. That is a lifetime in triathlon terms, and it could be expensive come the end of the day. Here are the times as they exit T2. 5:48 for McNeice, White on 5:50.19. Just behind him, Brian Rhodes, who hung on well on the bike ride. Liam Griffin now ahead of Chris McCormack, and they are the top 5. Now, McNeice seems to have got into his running fairly quickly, just sponging himself down. A long, long way to go. And I don't think he's stripping off to cope with the heat here. There is a Portaloo just down the road. He's got to hope that it's empty, and we've got to hope that this is just a routine stop and not a problem that he's developed after he's come off the bike. So, drama at the front of the men's field, and don't forget that Jamie White and Brian Rhodes are very close behind. Here they are, they're going straight past the Portaloo, and McNeice is still in there. A man's got to do what a man's got to do, but it could be an expensive stop for McNeice. Rhodes and White, I'm not sure they know that they're now in the lead, but when they do find out, it's going to be a massive psychological boost for them. So McNeice is back out on the course. He looks to be moving okay. But don't forget, this is his debut race over this sort of a distance, so it's very much an experiment, and he's been pushing incredibly hard. 150 metres ahead or so. White and Rhodes now sharing the lead. Meanwhile, back in T2, awaiting the arrival of Gina Crawford, the leading woman. And here she is. She's recorded 5:08 on the bike, quick enough to beat all but 9 of the men. And the course record of 9:28 is certainly on. She's got to run 3:15 to do that. Here's Chris McCormack wearing bib number 2, and he's had a slow start today, very slow in the water, but he's into his running now and going past his big rival Brian Rhodes. Both of these two saying that they could win it beforehand. A little word from McCormack to Brian Rhodes, and we're just hearing that McCormack's gone into 3rd place. Jamie White hanging on, but Dylan McNeice, who's on the big screen in the stadium, has gone back into the lead after that delay at the start of the run. So a brilliant comeback from McNeice, and Jamie White's got to dig incredibly deep if he wants to keep his hopes of victory alive. Water, water, Coke, he shouts. Now, normally this man just drinks water, so that might be an indication that he's having problems. And the fact that he's walking is certainly an indication that he's hurting. He has not got a huge amount of time to be playing with, but he has successfully pulled away from Jamie White and, of course, Brian Rhodes, who he overtook in the early stages after that brief stop through the spray and through the suburbs of Wanaka for one more time. It's a tough, tough run. Remember, 500 metres of climbing throughout the marathon race. The women, it's all been about Gina Crawford so far. Here is Jo Lawn making her way along the trails. 2nd place for her at the moment. And here is Gina Crawford. Past the switchback. Well, Jo Lawn greets Crawford. Crawford clocks Jo Lawn. That's all she's interested in, and because there's a switchback further down the road, she now knows exactly where she stands relative to Jo Lawn. Professionalism at its best from Gina Crawford, and that's why she's been so successful here. Now this is the leader of the men's race, and Dylan McNeice is in trouble. The cramp is setting in. I'm not sure whether it's the calf or the hamstrings. Either way, it's going to be very, very tough from here. Another 2 kilometres to go for Dylan McNeice. Is it all going to go horribly wrong in the closing stages? Remember, the total distance race today, 226 kilometres. Jamie White on his own in 2nd place. It's been a fantastic effort from Jamie White, looking to regain the title from 2 years ago. Well, this is nice to see. Dylan McNeice is into his stride again. It's a little shorter than it was before. He's got to stay as relaxed as possible to hold off Jamie White. But every second that goes past is playing to the advantage of Dylan McNeice, who is having an outstanding debut at Iron Distance Triathlon. Well, what a welcome sight this is, not only for the crowd, but for McNeice as well. Just metres to go now. He can ease up. He's heard that he's about 3.5 minutes clear, despite the problems that he's had with the hamstrings. Well, he said he was going to push the run from the start and just see what happened, and that's exactly what he's done. And despite the hamstrings, he's held on. A brilliant performance. 8:51.18, a brilliant debut iron distance triathlon for Dylan McNeice. He has a very rosy future ahead of him. and look forward to seeing him in Kona. Here comes Jamie White. This is going to be his third successive year in the top two. He won in 2011, beaten by Aaron Farlow this year, and beaten by Dylan McNeice in 2013.
You still can't believe it, you know, it's just so hard, and your highs and lows throughout the race, and there's so many moments where you think you just can't do it, but you just keep going. And you know, when you got Mecca chasing and Jamie White, you just can't, you can't give them an inch, otherwise they'll just, roll over you. So awesome day.
Third place to Chris McCormack, 7 minutes behind coming out of the water, and he's only 7 minutes behind at the end.
It was so tough. I've raced all over the world, and I've raced in some spectacular places, but that's one of the most honest triathlon courses in the world, and to be successful here, you can't have a weakness. You've got to be ready, and I got exposed.
So McNeice takes the title in a time of 8:51. White McCormack completing the podium, and a good performance from Keegan Williams in 4th place. Gina Crawford, sensational. 5 times she's entered Challenge Wanaka. 5 times she goes home as the champion. Astonishing career she's had at 32. She's not slowing down yet. And a hugely popular figure in this part of the world. Well done to Gina Crawford, champion yet again. 9:24 her time, 4 minutes inside her previous record. Sensational.
Yeah, it's just so overwhelming when everyone's cheering for you, and you get to run around the square, and it just makes it even more overwhelming to see all the people and for them to be cheering for you, and it was emotional.
Candice Hammond, who's been in a very tight battle with Joe Lawn over the last 12 kilometres or so, holding strong. It's been a good run, only just over the 3-hour mark. She'll be sub 3 hours 10 and gets the win over Joe Lawn. She certainly wouldn't have ordered a sprint after that sort of distance. Joe Lawn, exhausted, totally exhausted. 3rd place for her. She'll be disappointed not to have beaten Hammond today.
Wanaka is such a tough course, and I never forgot what it was like last year, and coming back, I thought I might be a little bit mentally stronger, but no, it gets the better of you, it really does. You don't want to end the Ironman on a sprint like that. It was my worst nightmare, and it was with Jo Lawn. She's a strong athlete, I look up to her so much.
So there's confirmation. Gina Crawford in a course record time of 9:24, ahead of Candice Hammond. She may be the heir apparent, but she's going to have to wait a while. Outstanding performances by the elite, but it's incredible how many people have got so much enjoyment out of pushing themselves to the limit.